Welcome, Mike.
Good morning, Carlos. How are you today?
I am awake. I have my quad Cuban coffee
Now, what
to
is
wake up.
Cuban coffee? How is that different than I don't know. What do I drink every morning? I don't know.
So the way that they toast the coffee, if you think about it, the flavor profile of the is what gives the distinction to the coffee. The bean may be probably exactly the same because most coffee that is grown and sold specifically in the US is based on the Arabica bean.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go in Latin America, you have different ways of toasting the bean,
Mm-hmm.
and that give you one the flavor profile, but also the caffeine.
Okay.
Um, there are three major ways of doing it. Cubans, it's not that it's a Cuban way; it's that they use the toast that they toast it in a way so you get a really strong flavor on the coffee. And the amount of caffeine it's good. I'm gonna send you. I one time saw a video from Gabriel Iglesias. I don't know if you see the comedian. Um, that he said that he came to Miami and he said cafecito, coffee, like, and they brought him like in here you get a colada, like a little, it's like a little shot glass like this, but it's a strong flavor. So the dude is big. So he said, "Why are you joking? Like, I'm a big guy." So they brought him like a bowl of coffee. And they're like, "Here it is." So he can drink it. But that is my wife actually argues with me when I don't leave her some coffee. She comes and she takes mine. So I left her some so she doesn't come in. Um, but it wakes me up.
I bet. Well, I'll have to give it a try at some point. Yeah, I'm drinking from the Keurig, so it's not the world's finest coffee, but it certainly gets the job done every day.
Keurig has some Bustelo, like the little cups. Look for it. They
Hmm.
have a yellow top and red, so you can get a good flavor in there.
Okay. I'm sure I must be able to get that on Amazon. I'll try to
Yep.
get a little sampler of that.
So it's not that cold, but it's a good temperature. Are you anytime coming soon? Coming to Miami to get some of the heat? Are you still freezing like a popsicle up north, or what is happening?
Yeah, no, it's a cold day today here, so we've got snow coming in. But of course, I think the other day it was 60 degrees here in the Boston area. So, the ups and downs of winter in New England, it's just unstoppable. Um, but yeah, the good news is that because just 1 year ago, I think I'm on my 53-week streak because the app tracks it. I'm still able to get my daily workout in because we bought a rowing machine, but it's it's not your traditional rowing machine. It's called Hydrow. It's Hydrow, and it's a Boston-based company. And so they essentially built a rowing machine that's very sleek. It's kind of, I think some people call it like a Tesla of rowing machines because it's very sleek profile, but it has a 27-inch touchscreen on it. Yeah, there we go. That's the machine. And so what you're able to do is strap in for a row. Uh, they talk about how it's a full body workout, 86% of the major muscle groups as they're showing there in the video. And just like what they have on the screen is you've got a rower who's on the water. They do live rows as well as have an on-demand library of, I think it's more than 2,000 workouts. And you go through the row and you think like, I never rode before we bought this machine, except, a little bit at the gym or something like that, but never seriously, never on the water. But it's turned out to be a great workout for me and for the family because no matter what the weather is outside, you can jump on. And even if you do 10 minutes 3 times a week, you're building up your fitness, you're building up your cardio, your strength, your muscle groups, all of that. So it's been a great investment for us. And it's if you like Peloton and that works for you, that's great. For me, sitting on that little bike seat, I'm a big guy. Like it didn't really appeal to me. So the Hydro has been a great new piece of exercise equipment for us in the last year, especially locked in with, yet another year of the pandemic.
It's interesting to think that probably a couple of years ago, I remember in the gym they had the rowing machine and they had like the little fan.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is cool because it will keep me cool, but that will make it more difficult because that fan, when you pull, then you get that resistance. But thinking how technology actually keep getting involved in our lives
Hmm.
and all the new gadgets that keep coming out. I know that you and I, we do a lot of different things besides our world.
Right.
What are some of those gadgets that actually make your life easier, and then that we can actually probably take a look at how does that impact probably security or what we do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, well, I'll send you another link here in the chat that you can share if you want to. But this was something that my son had as kind of his number one request on his Christmas list. So he's 15 years old and wanted the Oculus Quest 2, or now I guess we call it the Meta Quest with the new branding. But the headset, and kids in school these days have done things like Google Cardboard for VR and those kind of things. But this device and what it allows you to do, so the piece in the center, if you're not familiar with it, obviously goes on over your head. They do have a fit for guys who wear glasses and gals who wear glasses like us, but it doesn't really, I don't know, I end up taking my glasses off and kind of focus the lenses. And then you have those two wireless hand pieces, which have some buttons and joysticks and triggers, depending on kind of what game or what software you're interacting with and how you navigate it. But it is an incredibly immersive experience. Uh, he had some things, it was like a roller coaster shooter game or whatever. And like when I went on it, I was standing up and then all of a sudden, like you start to feel your stomach drop as it's going through and the realism of it. From a fitness perspective, what I thought was really interesting is he found a game that's just boxing. So you're obviously punching against a imaginary opponent in the game, but you're ducking and you're weaving and everything, right? It has very good sensors in it, so it senses how your body moves and kind of portrays that on the screen in front of you. What's more interesting to me in this space and kind of virtual reality is when you start getting into augmented reality and mixed reality. So our friends at Microsoft have created the Microsoft Hololens, and that's an interesting device. Similar in the form factor and kind of how it works, but is more designed for seeing through the device. Which I should actually say, Quest is probably capable of a lot of that too. If you see those black dots that are on the
Hmm.
bottom front and then on the top corners of it, those are actually cameras. So there is a mode when you're in the headset where you can actually see the real world environment around you, and then it has an overlay of whatever application or software you're using on Quest. So to me, those are the scenarios where you think about firefighters or other kind of public safety professionals, those kind of things, having kind of a heads up display or an overlay on top of what they're seeing that feeds them additional information from either sensors here or sensors in the sky, drones, satellites, all those things. There are some really interesting scenarios. I would like it if half the things I'm trying to fix on one of our cars, I'm watching a YouTube video and then going to try to do it. If I could overlay that and just kind of wear the Quest on there, it might help me get things more done more effectively.
It's interesting because I saw the other day a company that, like, I have one. We actually our team is starting to do VR meetings.
Mm,
So we're doing it. And even though with the lens thing for the glasses, it's too close for me. So
yeah.
my glasses, but then I saw a company that they can put your prescription
Mm,
in a lens so you can put it in the Oculus directly. So over their lenses. So in that way you can just take your glasses off, put those in, and you have then just your regular prescription. Um, and the interesting thing is that the experience that you can start having now. I was looking at the productivity apps that they're bringing. Like right now, I'm in my desk, so
yeah.
sometimes um, you may have multi monitors, so you're already like building yourself a little bit of a VR experience to expand more. Like it was interesting that they have like the email client and the browser client and stuff like that. And for us, we look at it that way. When I told that to my kid, he's like, "But why you want to use your VR at work?" he uses to play Minecraft and to play all
Yeah.
this stuff. And I'm like, well, aren't you using a computer and a program?
Oh yeah. Well, look at the actually the second link that I just put here in the chat if you want to share that screen. You know, this is the Microsoft HoloLens. So if you consider what's going on and the way that it looks for the user. So she's wearing the HoloLens. She can see through it. And could have glasses on, right? And so it kind of addresses the scenario because it's not pressed against your face tightly. It's more of that heads-up display. She's able to look at whatever it is that she's working on there and making repairs to. But you can see that from her point of view, she has this floating window of someone who's able to see exactly what she sees, and he's
Mhm.
providing some coaching or instruction on the repair that she's attempting to make there, right? So it's collaborative, it's interactive. She has the ability to not have to look away at what he's seeing. He can see exactly what she sees wherever her eyes are focused, right? So there is some really interesting scenarios, I think, at work. You know, scrolling down that page, you'll see, you know, a couple more examples of some screens that they've put together. So it makes a lot of sense for different work applications. I like the idea of doing the virtual meetings. I think, you know, this is the metaverse concept, right? That Mark Zuckerberg presented several weeks ago. The idea that we would all exist as avatars in some sort of virtual room and be able to come together. Uh, I don't think it's that far away, but it is. You know, there's obviously an investment too. You have to go buy a headset for everyone who's going to participate, or have some sort of way that people can access that technology.
About probably, I think 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I was at a conference for another company that I work for, and they had a POC with the HoloLenses to fix some of their industrial equipment. And it's interesting that the technology keep advancing, keep growing. Um, but I think the question come from a leaders or for a company standpoint. What do we do with all this technology as it's coming and may be innovative and as it's
Hmm.
new, may or may not have all the same security controls, or may not have the integrations like single sign-on protection, different things like that. But what are some things that we could probably do, Mike, that from past experience that we should be looking at? Because technology is cool, and that's what,
Yeah.
if a company is not actually innovating or have I think that we used to call the chief innovations officer instead of the
Yeah.
CIO,
Yeah.
that you are actually looking at what gonna be the differentiator for you. What do you bring to your customers, but also looking at how to protect them. What are some things that we could do?
Yeah, I think some of the things that I'm seeing that are interesting. You know, first off, I think it's easy to dismiss a lot of this stuff as just being, uh, you know, very consumer oriented, right? I'm just trying to find we've talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I'm just trying to find the guys. I'll look for it in a minute. Oh, here it is, I think. So this is an article that is worth reading and sharing. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. He created a creator crypto token. So there's this, you know, concept of Web3, which, to really reduce it down to oversimplify it, would be it's about crypto and NFTs, non-fungible tokens, which is, again, a terrible name for something. Um, you know, it's easy to dismiss a lot of this stuff as just consumer-oriented tech. If you listen to Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary is um, a social media and marketing guru. He owns an agency called VaynerMedia. He's kind of a pundit for a lot of this stuff and talks actually a lot about Web3 stuff now too. But what he'll tell you is that, you know, there was a time when everybody looked at Facebook as consumer only. There's no business play there. And then what happens? Facebook advertising blows up. Whether you're doing direct to consumer or B2B, Facebook is an advertising platform that many companies benefit from. People look at things like Instagram or even TikTok, and again, very consumer oriented. But if you look at the advertising cost on some of these tools and the ability to get content out there and have it go viral, everybody has their niche in their space and their community. There's a place to reach all these people. What's interesting about the crypto things that Mark Schaefer is doing is, yes, he's created a crypto token using this Rally.io platform, but he's using it to provide specific benefits to his community. Similar kind of thing that Gary Vaynerchuk is doing. Gary, again, he's a pioneer in a lot of this stuff. So he created these. I'm just going to find the URL. He calls them V Friends. So here's the V Friends. So if you want to pull this up, we can talk about this. So it's an NFT. It's art, right? So he drew these different pictures of all these little characters. They're very silly, right? Kind of like childlike drawings. But then this is the term is called, minted them as non-fungible tokens. So they can be purchased, they can be sold, resold. You see the different amounts in US dollars that are next to some of these things of what they're going for. Why would somebody pay
Yeah. Yeah.
$73,000 for the lava bad intentions, right? So go ahead and click on that. So what you get when so last sale, right, it sold for 3 Ethereum, which was that, $73,000. If you scroll down, it's been sold a couple of times. It was originally minted 9 months ago, and then it's been sold a couple times along the way for increasing amounts, I'm sure. The concept here is not that, you can say I own a Gary Vaynerchuk V-Friend drawing. There's certainly that is one scenario. But what it gets you is access to a conference that only holders of VFriend NFTs can attend. Who cares, right? Well, you're getting access to Gary himself, right? He could go out and just have a conference and charge people to come to it, but he's creating a community around his business. And as you see, the token is verifiable for admission to VCon, his conference just for holders, 22, 23, 24.
So I'm
So
gonna give you.
it's the blockchain gives you, it's not transferable without an exchange, right? There has to be something, it's verifiable who owns it because it's part of the blockchain. So people in businesses, I think, will start to come on more. Like right now, it's a lot of individuals, but if you think about your company creating your own token or NFT and selling that, and then providing specific benefits, access, ownership, maybe of the business. Maybe you use it for fundraising and kind of a co-op model. So there are a lot of scenarios, and I think those who kind of embark early on this and start to figure things out will serve as a great example to others.
I am actually trying to really look at that after I saw this that came on my feed
Mm-hmm.
through the Super Bowl. Snoop made 44 million by dropping his NFT of the new record company that he got.
Yeah.
And when I started looking at it, I thought that was just art.
Mm.
I'm like, why are you gonna buy that for art? But when I started looking into it, that is a part that is interesting. Like you said, VFriends give you access to a conference.
Yep.
But this actually give you access to a specific collection of music that he's releasing. Again, I'm not endorsing anyone. I was
Right.
just looking at from a technology standpoint, how interesting it will be for the technology that is running all this behind to actually help a company to move forward. And I don't have the article, but Grant Cardone did something very similar. So Grant Cardone, real estate tycoon, he put a great different event during the year. And after Snoop did his, I saw the ad of coming, get the NFT so you can go and all the benefits that you get by using that. And the interesting thing is that what I'm looking at it is that if you own it, you hold the rights. But as soon as you sell it, you lose all the rights. So you don't have access anymore to that because it's connected to that. So from a security standpoint, it's an interesting concept that initially when I thought about the NFTs and all this new technology with metaverse and all that kind of stuff, I'm like, why do I want a Gap shirt? Like they were minting Gap shirts so you can use it in metaverse, and I'm like, why do I want to have a brand shirt?
Yeah. Well, you've seen the Ready Player One movie or read the book,
Yep.
right? So I mean, most people have probably not read the book, but the movie I think did a good job of portraying that, right? Like people living, at some point in the future. Although I think the Ready Player One time frame is not that far away of when the book was written
Yeah.
about, of close to where we are, chronologically right now. But the idea that people are going to sit around in their house basically, but put on the headset and the suit that lets you feel all the sensations of if you're in a fight or you're in a race or whatever. Um, but that is kind of the concept, right? Is that people want to look good because that's how they interact with the world, just like they do in real life. But the concept you were just talking about, I just popped another link here, which is the guy Mark Schaefer and his Rise Crypto. If you pull that one up and scroll down to where it says active campaigns, he's doing like what you described essentially with Snoop's music. Snoop has a very specific deliverable. What Mark Schaefer is doing is saying you can use the crypto, buy in at whatever amount you want, however many shares, and then you can get his audiobook. You could be a guest on his podcast. You could buy the actual physical book. You can get a personal branding masterclass one-on-one with him. So why would he do it this way? If he wants to do all of these things, he can do all of it today. He can sell his audiobook through Audible. I'm sure he does. He can sell his book through Amazon. I'm sure that he does. What happens though when you pay them? I'm just doing my taxes now, and I have a book that my co-author and I published. It's on Audible. It's on Amazon. We published through Ingram Spark. So you get royalty checks and those kind of things, which is great. But whatever we sell it for, of course, they take a fee because they're distributing it on our behalf. In this case, I can be my own distributor. There is no middleman. I make you buy my currency. Now, realistically, he could just put it up there and sell it himself directly without the crypto kind of piece in the middle. But the crypto gives essentially you buy into my form of currency, which is my coin, and then you're using that to exchange for the different benefits that I make available to you. So, and there are limitations, right? Like you see, it says in the green on the right, on the left-hand side, how many are remaining of each. So he can decide how much of this he wants to make available and how he wants to handle the exchange. But it gives the creator much more control. Now we're talking about an individual like Mark Schaefer or Gary Vaynerchuk. It very much could be in the hands of a business as well. So, again, opportunities are out there. It's a kind of how do people creatively approach the use of these new technologies in a way that builds community around their business, builds investment, builds collaboration.
And I think that what is interesting to all these technologies, me thinking about it, for the longest time, we had Bitcoin, and it was just the fad from kids.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, they're using their gaming computer, they're doing this. I'm like, they're building it. And then all of a sudden, the technology started to be used on the back end. I remember meeting with some investors and some banks looking at how they can leverage the technology to secure the exchange of when the money goes from one account to another one so
Yeah.
mistakes don't happen or they can be caught correctly. Another time they were talking about how the technology, like the same way Bitcoin get generated, it's a ledger that there's transactions, how to do the same thing for, let's say, for shipping manifestos or for different things. So the technology part is what it interested me a
Mm-hmm.
lot because it make it different than what we currently have, and then it brings a challenge. Okay, so now how do I secure that Bitcoin? That was one of sorry, that big uh, the chain um, that sometimes, because it's immutable, people start creating blockchains that put it some information that shouldn't be there, and they needed to remove the chain completely. Um, but all this, I think, it helped us to realize that more than ever, as new technology come in, we need to have ways of managing it, securing it, protecting it, and to be able to have the opportunity to then do something different with it. Oh, what we
Now,
have in here?
now I sent
We
you
have
an article, so if you want to pull this one up, this is my now. First off, scroll back up, please, and look at the date of when I wrote this. This is an article I published on LinkedIn in 2018,
okay.
right? So I wrote about kind of looking forward, how might blockchain work in the channel, right? So you and I work in the software industry. The majority of the revenue in this is transacted through channel partners. So I went through and kind of looked at, how does blockchain beyond cryptocurrencies potentially benefit the channel? And so if you scroll down to the bullet points, starting with PRM, you'll see a couple of different things here. But one of the things that everyone suffers with is kind of the second bullet around rapid enrollment. So if you are a brand and you have a product or a service that I want to offer to my customers, but I haven't done business with you before, the first thing you say is, great, fill out this partner application. Oh, I have to fill out all this information. I have to give you my banking. I have to give you my credit references. I have to give you all this stuff. What if I could just auth against my blockchain wallet, which has an immutable source of data, gives you my whole profile? That reduces cost on both sides, reduces time on both sides, and helps us get on, kind of get going more quickly. Um, PRM, partner relationship management software, a lot of companies, brands like Datto and Microsoft and others use that to manage partner relationships, right? Kind of have all that history. Again, there's a source of data from the blockchain that could fill in a profile to make that information verifiable and easy. I saw an exchange actually yesterday, someone saying, hey, we'd like to be a partner with you. And they say, I don't find a listing under this. Oh, well, look at this, because this is our name, but this is our DBA, right? You find those kind of things happen all the time. So through partner marketing, incentives, MDF, training and certifications, right? Like, how do I verify that you actually have all the training and certifications that you say? What about customer reviews? This is something that's a huge problem area, right? I mentioned Yelp and Amazon right there. They've suffered terribly with people essentially pumping their own tires, right? Putting up fake reviews to make their products and services look good when they're really not. So there are many scenarios. And by the way, I don't think any of this exists yet. So like, this is an idea I talked about almost 4 years ago. Uh, published it, talked about it with a couple of companies that I think are in a position to actually act on this. I haven't seen anybody act on it. So it'll be interesting to see if any of these predictions ever come true.
Mike, I remember seeing some like on the book industry, like you and me have published different books, work in different areas. I know that Amazon, like you said, had that problem to the degree that they actually boot several brands of their environment, like that they could not sell anymore,
Right.
because they were actually saying, if you give us a good review, we will send you something.
Yeah.
Uh, and at one point in time, I don't even remember, people could leave a review without buying a book. And
Yeah.
then they switch the verified purchase. So no, you need to purchase so you can leave a review that that product is good. These are all great ideas, Mike. I think that we need to have a meeting, you and me, uh, because these are great ideas. That actually the the mortgage industry is looking at something very similar, because there are a lot of different moving parts that you can simplify. But again, there's already a digital version, but the acceptance of it.
Hmm.
But I think that looking at all this, it gave us the idea that technology gonna continue to change. If you want to keep things the same way that they were before, go back to the bedrocks and with Fred Flintstones, um, because things are not gonna stay the same. Like the kids, like yesterday, I was with my oldest boy, and I have a VPN software on my phone. He has a completely different.
Hmm.
We are at the doctor. He has internet. I don't. And I'm like, how are you connecting? He's like, oh, I'm using this software. I'm like, why? That's how they on the school taught him to bypass
Yeah.
the firewall in the school. So I'm like, come on. So things are gonna keep changing. Things are gonna keep growing, and in the business world, we need to get used to do that, like the channel and different companies, so we can look ahead. And probably that's what I love, the concept of incubating an idea. Some of these things you need to incubate them, bring them into a separate environment, into your world, see what you could do with it. We're live streaming. Who used to live stream before for business or for fun or for something? My wife, if we're outside, people know that they're gonna see something. We're on the mall, we're somewhere, like she's live streaming for her friends all around the world. We get people from everywhere. I'm like, put your face. She doesn't like to put her face. I cannot live stream without me being on the camera. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that is, again, I think that, some of this makes people uncomfortable, but there are opportunities all around. I think it's how you embrace those opportunities, how you explore the ideas. Not everything's going to work out, and that's okay. It's
Mhm.
kind of the fun of the experimentation, uh, and seeing where it goes and seeing what makes sense for your business, for your industry, for your customers and partners, um, or your personal brand, right? Like, so a lot of this, sometimes is for people like Gary Vaynerchuk, like he has a personal brand. He's got to build that. This is a one way that he's doing it, but he's also showing many other people how to do these things and then giving them ideas that they can then take and apply to their own specific business and industry. And so, there's a place for all of this stuff. It's just a matter of where it's going to settle. But it'll look very interesting 5 years from now, because look at where we were 5 years ago, right? It's all kind of matured very quickly. So
Well, my friends, has been awesome to see you again. For our audience, make sure that you share, you subscribe, give us your feedback. What topics do you like that we continue having the conversation on Fridays? Remember, Friday is not the end of the week, it's the beginning of the weekend. So make sure that you enjoy your weekend, you have a great time with your family, that you don't freeze, Mike, with all the snow that's coming down over
I'll be
there.
fine. Thanks. Yeah.
And we'll see you, my friends, next week at 9 o'clock here through all our channels. See you, my friends.